Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional, providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hello, Justin Daniels here. I am a shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Root Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk. And when needed, I lead the legal cyber data breach response brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by Ding, Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. You are very smirky today. Doing this episode with you is very challenging because I just want to laugh.
Well,
Why are you so smirky?
because laughing brings everyone joy.
Yeah, but then I'm going to twist over all my words and I'm going to sound like a bubbling, silly person.
And that makes me suitably entertained.
Oh, I see. It's just for everyone's entertainment.
No, it's just we're doing a lot of things today together in various venues. So let's focus on our guest.
Let's focus on Judy. Okay, well, we have Judy Titera, who is the owner of J Titera Solutions, where she provides privacy and security consulting services and is a faculty member of IAN's research. Additionally, she serves as independent director on the Mitsui Sumitomo Transverse Insurance Board and Audit Committee. And she's also on the board and nominating and governance committees of Nemours Children's Hospital. Judy retired from USAA, where she served as the chief privacy officer, and in her free time, enjoys participating in various professional activities and speaking engagements. So, Judy, I'm so excited that you are here. We've known each other for quite some time, and I'm just delighted to dive into all of your wealth of experience as a chief privacy officer and serving on board of directors.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. And hopefully this is a fun and enjoyable conversation. I'm all for having a good time here today.
I think we're going to have some fun. So
yes,
good fun.
Good fun.
And actually, some people were surprised. We released an episode today while we're recording, and people were surprised. They didn't know that we actually are sitting side by side. Justin and I are doing this recording. So for anyone who was curious, we are sitting side by side. It's much more fun because then we can poke and we can prod, and here we are. Okay. See? Okay, you should start.
I will start. So, Judy,
Hi.
Talk to us a little bit about your career journey to where you are today.
All right. If we had 2 hours, I could go into great detail of my journey. But as I was thinking, because I know you always ask this question, so I was thinking about my journey. And one of the things that I really focused on, and it really came to light as I was thinking about it, is the people that helped me along the way on my journey. I started off not knowing what I wanted to do in my career. I started off, I was a paralegal at a insurance company. And I was working on a project and, in a meeting, and there was a request, does anyone have capacity? There's this new thing called GLBA and proposed regulations for HIPAA. It was 1999. And I raised my hand and said, that sounds interesting. And that really kick-started my privacy career for the last 25 years, which has been really quite a great journey along the way. And through that time, as I, developed and, was going, I had individuals that came into my life that either saw something in me I didn't see in myself, provided me with opportunities that I didn't think maybe I was capable of doing, gave me sound advice on what and what I could and should be doing in the privacy space. And, those are all those things anything I would say to anyone in the, whatever field you're in is having good mentors, having people in your life that you can go to and just say, this sounds like the craziest thing. Can you help me, make my way through this? Have you ever had this experience before? So having mentors, I think is going to be my key to where I got to where I am today. Another key piece I would say in my career, my privacy career, I'm going to do a call out to IAPP. When I first started my privacy career, it was, the early 2000s, we would go to conferences. There'd be about 200, 300 people at those conferences. And now there's tens, I don't know, maybe even they had 100,000, members. Their resources, their training, their certifications. Whenever I have someone who's considering a privacy career, I send them their way. So just, they're not paying me to say this, but, just I think it's an outstanding organization that folks should be involved in. So my career in privacy has been just very full. Chief Privacy Officer at USAA. I couldn't have asked for a better position and a better company. I'd absolutely love that. But when I was planning my career, once I got into, not sure where I was going to go, and then I got to a point in my life where I said, success is not an accident. That I do need to take some ownership on my own career. I started thinking about board work. And this was, I would tell you, it was probably maybe 20 years ago when I was working on my MBA, when I started thinking about, after I retire, what about board of directors? Is that something that maybe I, could do? And there's a lot of work that goes on alongside in order to be prepared for that type of role. A lot of it, and we'll talk a little bit, Jody, we thought maybe we'd talk about this a little bit later in a little bit more detail. But one of the things I also encourage individuals, if they are thinking about that, is what are some of the nonprofit boards that you can get involved in today to learn about governance, to learn about maybe your specialty isn't finance. Maybe you get in a finance committee on a nonprofit. So those are things I did. I started very early. I always loved. I'm a hand raiser. I'm always raising my hand to jump in and to be on different committees and boards. So I got involved in a lot of nonprofit boards, whether it be, my son's, PTA or drama club, and then on to larger nonprofits throughout the organizations in the cities I lived in. So all this is all, additional learning that I can do to prepare myself for board of directors roles, in addition to my privacy experience, which we're going to talk about more later. So I'm sorry, I'm all over the board, but ultimately I'd say, how did I get here today? I didn't do it alone. I had so many people supporting me along the way.
Judy, one of the things I think is really interesting is a lot of people are interested in privacy, and sometimes they think chief privacy officers have to be attorneys, which your career arc just showed you don't. You might have had a start in, as a paralegal, but not necessarily as an attorney. The business skills of an MBA really helped prove to be helpful in understanding the overall process. So for people listening, I've worked and seen many chief privacy officers that are not attorneys, and I think there's a place and room for both.
I completely agree. I think having that understanding of legal is critical, right? But I would say the majority of the work that we do as chief privacy officers is operational, understanding, the technical side and the, strategy side, and so yeah, I'm an advocate for chief privacy officers being non-attorneys. I think they bring a ton of value.
To be successful in the organization, you just talked about how you had a lot of people support you along the way in your career. And for privacy professionals to be successful in accomplishing the goals in their program, they really also do need executive support. And sometimes that can be a challenge. Mm-hmm. As a former chief privacy officer, can you talk about your role with working with executive leadership?
Sure. And this is a fun story too, because it's changed over the years. When, starting off in the early 2000s, privacy was not front of mind. It was a check the box. I worked in an organization that was required to have a privacy officer under HIPAA. So it was like, okay, check, we have that, right? So when I would meet with executives, they're like, I got other things on my mind. This is not top of mind. Fast forward to today. Executives, no matter where they sit, should be thinking about privacy, and many of them are. So it's a much different story that I find working with executives today. So rather than me going in and, here's just a little piece of advice that I've used, and with some of the people I've been mentoring, is if we're looking at an executive, and digital, I think, is probably a big area, right? A digital or a marketing, or maybe even a sales. Helping them, they're going to come to me and they're going to say, I want to develop this tomorrow. What do I need to know so I'm compliant with privacy, right? So also spinning that a little bit by saying, helping them educate themselves so they know what some of the privacy barriers are. And many of them are starting to see that. So one of the things I've been doing with executives is sending them webinars from IAPP or other areas on, like, oh, here's a webinar on privacy and HR for the HR executives. Maybe have that, make sure that your entire team sees this, or have initiatives for your teams to have privacy, understanding privacy, going to webinars or going to conferences. So not only building that relationship with them as, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what to do, but building that relationship with the executives that we're in this together. There's so much, the expertise on your area, and here's how we together can make sure that we're compliant with privacy, that we're thinking about trust and customers, that we're really, building that bridge of partnership rather than my expertise, your expertise, and hopefully it matches.
Mr. Quiet,
I'm here.
you in the after lunch lull?
No, not at all.
Just blown away by my my brilliance here.
I'm thinking, but as you talked about, things have evolved where
Yes.
board of directors are taking a keen interest in data privacy. So at that level, what are some of the important metrics or topics privacy professionals should be thinking about and preparing for a board meeting? I mean, security has the same issue.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. So, when you think about your board of directors, think about what they're doing. I'm preparing right now for board meetings. I'm reading well over 500 pages of detailed documentation about the organization, about the strategy, about the finances, about the compliance, right? So, we are spending a lot of time deep diving in this. So my fiduciary duty as a board member is to make sure that the organization is sound, that the organization is doing the right things, that we continue for the long run as an organization and do that well. So when we start looking at things like privacy, so having, for my privacy seat, privacy is the most important thing in the world, right? I know, I know it, I love it. It's like, without privacy, the whole place is going to fall apart, right? But from a board of directors standpoint, that's one of the agenda items out of 100. So how can I make an influence? What does that board need to know? And how can I make impact on there? So when we're talking about metrics, it's not only, we had 75 data breaches this year. Okay, that's good. Is that a lot? Is that not a lot? Why are you telling me? Well, what should I know? So it's taking what you know and what you have in your organization. How mature is your privacy organization? What are the things that you're seeing? What are the trends? Is trust important to your organization as far as privacy? How do we show that we are increasing our trust because of privacy, or maybe it's going down? Maybe you're working with some other areas, your the communications department, is social media, are they trending? Are they hearing different things that we can bring into our privacy program as well? So as we had, maybe there was a breach that impacted X number of people, how did that impact our trust levels on the organization? So bringing it back to, what do you want to tell the board is, do you have a program? If you're just starting off, how mature is it? Where do we need to improve? What do I need to improve it, and why? And then next time when you come, okay, I was here, I've now improved, but I didn't hit these marks that I thought I would. Why not? Was it resources? Was it other initiatives? Was it important? Is it really bad that we didn't make it, or is it okay that it goes on further? So really thinking, trying to put on a little bit more strategic hat when you're talking to the board of directors on what they, how you can help them to help you in the long run. So really the why of what you're showing them.
So you talked about in that example, talking about, if you had a data breach. And so in your experience, how often it is that the CISO makes a board report, the CPO may make a separate board report, and what is the, I guess, overlap between those two? Because if I were a CPO, and maybe Jody, and you may correct me, Jody will enjoy that, that maybe talking about breaches is not what the CPO wants to do with the board. They're going to say, hey, the CISO is coming up to talk about that bag of stuff.
Number one piece is CISO and Chief Privacy Officer should be best friends. And when we're preparing our board reports, we should be talking. So last thing you want is two reports that either duplicate or are not consistent between the two. So that is a critical piece. I'd also maintain that other areas. If I was talking about trust, making sure I'm talking to my communications team as well on what I'm reporting to the board. So that's number one. I think that's one part of the question. But I think your second part is who reports it, right? Who reports breaches? I think that can be a combination, right? So CISO might be talking about how many times we've had a cyber incident. The privacy team might be talking about how many times we, misdelivered mail, or we had an outage that was not a cyber incident that caused an issue. So making sure that there's an alignment and definition around what we're talking about when we are talking about breaches.
Judy, one of the pieces that you talked about was how a board member has 100 different things to think about. And the privacy and security people, they're so detailed and that's all they do all day. So of course, everything is incredibly important. And what I wanted to share was early in my career, I had learned to be able to summarize and get the other side to understand why what you're talking about is so important and to put it into their language and their terms. And if you think about all the different departments, they're all coming with everything is critical and important and on fire right then. Right. And you also mentioned at the beginning how privacy is really, you have to understand everything about the operations of a company. It's incredibly operational, which means the privacy person can then articulate how it has a financial impact, it has a marketing impact, it impacts our sales, it impacts our customer support, how all of that is interconnected. And I just wanted to share that really for the audience and get your thoughts, because I think that's another piece to help the privacy piece not just be one more kind of burning fire, but to really help elevate the conversation, make it strategic, to get that board person out of 99 other topics and to pay attention to this one.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And one of the other pieces too is to work with, maybe we're working with our digital team and they talk about privacy within their report as well. So it's not just only my silo, but it's being talked about as this is overreaching throughout the entire organization. So I think that's a great point.
I like that a lot. Now, CPO privacy person is talking to the board. What kind of questions should they anticipate receiving?
Yes. I think one of the questions that is really important is, so when I talk about, what are the most important risks, or what are the biggest risks you're seeing? And what I don't want to hear as an answer is AI. Okay. So why AI? What does that have to do with my organization? What does that have to do with with what we're looking at? Because personal information might be, misused. Okay. So then I'm going to go further. So why is that important? What does that mean? How does that impact us in the bottom line? Okay. So I'm going to continue to drill down on that. So to proactively do that, let's start thinking that the board is going to be asking those questions on what is the most important risk to our organization. And we may say, number one is losing the trust of our our customers. And that could happen by these different things. This is what we're doing about it. This is the risks, the barriers that I have to get there. And here are solutions that we're looking at today in order to get there. So, start thinking not just one answer. Start thinking the 5 questions that they're going to ask and be prepared to kind of come ahead of when they're asking those questions. Because the board's going to, really wants to know, not only, what we're doing, but do we have the right team in the place? Right? Do we have the right, or do we have leaders who are thinking strategically? Are they focusing on the right things? How are they showing that to me, and how are they showing up for their employees, the employees in the organization overall? Those are some of the things I'd be prepared for.
You know what comes to mind? This might show the kinds of shows that we've been watching a lot of. What comes to mind is Shark Tank, and how those that get gobbled up in the Shark Tank were not prepared to be able to answer the questions about their business. They didn't know their numbers. They didn't know, some of the basics that you might think. And as you were explaining, being able to prepare really thoughtful answers, it seems that's what privacy, and this is true, I would say, for anyone listening, it doesn't have to be just a board. It could be an executive suite of people who are asking you the same questions. Not every company has a board. And so you want to be able to be prepared for those same type of questions. So anticipating and preparation, I think, is critical.
Yep.
And Shark Tank is cool.
Right.
You talked a little bit about customer trust. And I was wondering is that like a key performance indicator that a board might look at? And I guess if so, what would that measurement look like? Because sometimes where at least I struggle from a privacy perspective is we see all kinds of data breaches. And I'll give you one as an example here in Atlanta, Equifax. They had a horrendous data breach. But with Equifax, we have no choice. You can't take your business away from Equifax. If you want to get credit, they're one of the 3 reporting agencies who pulls your credit. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that key performance indicator might look like, how you measure it, and maybe we're not quite there where it's the right one yet. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one of the things to think about with looking at trust, it's not just data breaches. So data breaches is one aspect of when we're looking at trust. Are we being transparent with our customers? Are we doing what we say we're doing? I can go like the most extreme, right? Many years ago, Facebook sharing information with another party that we didn't realize that was happening, right? They weren't being transparent. They didn't know they were sharing information with a 3rd, 4th, 5th party. So helping to build that, yes, we are going to have breaches, and that's the name of the game, right? Things are going to happen, but that should not be the only thing. And we've seen over time that doesn't erode trust completely of an organization. But what else can we do? How else can we share that story of what we're doing and being transparent and doing what we say? Not only saying it, but doing it. So internally having those mechanisms in place.
Oh, that's one of my favorite phrases. Say what you do and do what you say.
Yeah.
My favorite phrase in cybersecurity, scaring is caring.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good one.
Comes from a wonderful kid's book. Off a shark.
See, Jody doesn't like the one I have for privacy, which is sometimes when they want to collect your data, just say no. And Jody's like,
no.
Nobody knows where you're coming from, but I bet you do.
Well,
Yes.
some people do, but there's an entire generation that has no clue.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
right.
Anyway.
Does show your age, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Ooh, she got me there. So for a privacy professional who is interested in getting more involved on a board of directors, what would you tell them and how should they get started?
Yes. I think that's a great question. So I talked a little bit about it in my opening. When I first started thinking about board of directors and I would talk to individuals, they'd say a privacy professional will never be on a board of directors. We want to be CEO, we want a CFO. You have your little silo and that's great. That that's the way it is. After, Facebook had large incident, they were required to have a privacy committee on their board of directors. And I was like, yes, that's great. So we're starting to see more opportunity. But I maintain that, again, what we were talking about earlier is a privacy officer, chief privacy officer especially, needs to understand the entire organization. So we are in a position, unlike many other areas of any organization, where I need to understand the strategy of the organization. I need to understand the front desk, who's checking IDs and, what do we have going on? I need to know what's going on in the mailroom. I need to know what's going on in digital innovation. My CISO has to be my best friend. The data governance team has to be my best friend. The salespeople, underwriting, whatever, frontline, backline, everyone. Privacy officer sees and hears and understands risk in a, holistic view. We understand we are in advisory roles across the entire organization. We have to be, just really understand that whole picture. So similarly to maybe a COO, right? So when I talk to privacy professionals about considering going into a board of directors role, it's helping others understand that yes, I can tell you, everything you want to know about privacy and cybersecurity, all these great things. But I also understand strategy, understand how the organizations run. So that's one aspect of understanding our skills and our what we bring to the table with that view. And then the second piece I had mentioned too is really for someone who's considering that, really start looking at opportunities, if you haven't already, on nonprofit organizations, understanding corporate governance. So in a nonprofit, how, what is the finances that you need to know? What is, how does board governance work? So all these skills that you're learning in addition to the work and value that you bring comes together into a really nice portfolio that we're able to then say to organization, hey, this is what I can bring to the table. And I can help you see things that you might not be able to see. I can ask questions that you may not have thought of. And that, just that's part of the packaging that I don't think a lot of people have really thought of. And I may have mentioned that I did have a lot of people say no, right? And that's a motivator for me. I don't know about anyone else, but if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, oh yeah, let's see. So that's another piece of it. But happy to talk to anyone. I know you usually give information LinkedIn if you want to contact me. I love talking to individuals who are considering board work or other type of mentoring of, just happy to connect with anyone who's interested in that.
Judy, for the amount of how well you know our podcast, maybe we should have a guest co-host. You know how we work pretty well.
I listen all the time. You have great guests. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, so then you also know that we always like to ask everyone, given all the privacy or security knowledge that people have, what is your best privacy tip that you might offer the non-privacy people in your life?
It's probably been said more than once, and it's a kind of a just say no thing. It's the phones.
Oh, see?
Yes.
Say no.
Right.
Yeah. It's yes. Good phone hygiene, I like to call it. Going in, turning off all those microphones, turning off all those location devices, turning off. It's just it's fun talking to like a great aunt or like someone just saying, pull out your phone, let me show you, what's going on behind the scenes and what you have controls over. So those are just kind of fun things that I'd like to do at parties.
I recently did a phone cleanup and it was so much fun.
Yeah,
I did. I had all kinds of kids apps that I had for when my kids were younger and they're not the same age anymore. So I got rid of them all. And then I was just on a mission. I downloaded apps that I thought, well, that would be interesting. I haven't used them and all gone. So much fun. You should try.
Oh.
And organization too. All right. Getting a little much.
So, Judy, when you're not doing your board work and you're consulting, what do you like to do for fun?
I started something new just recently. I'm watercolor painting. And this is what I call trying to slow my brain. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. And if you've ever watercolored, the water just takes the paints wherever it wants to go. So it's never perfect. and the final solution is just what it is. It's been a great, meditation time for me. So that's been one of the things I just have been loving doing recently.
My daughter loves watercolor and all things painting, so she would certainly agree with you.
Quiet meditative time.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what Justin calls quiet meditative time.
Yes.
Well, Judy, you mentioned being able to reach out on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for everyone to learn more?
That's the best place. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I highly encourage everyone to connect with Judy. It's how you and I met.
Yes.
Justin asked, how do we meet? LinkedIn. It all goes back to LinkedIn. So, Judy, thank you so much. This was a really fun and interesting episode. And I want to remind everyone, I know I said it, but this content doesn't have to be just for a board. It really can apply to any executive leadership that you need to explain and convince. So thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.